here with Roxana and Arnaud in Phoenix, Arizona. We're so excited. These two are a power couple for sure. They're both published authors and transformational coaches, and they both co-founded Heal Through Words, which we're really excited to hear more about. So welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you so much. Well, before we dive into what life is like now, take us back before you were together. Did you know exactly what you were looking for in a partner?
Go ahead.
Wow, that's the question. Well, in my case, I had been divorced for a while, and I wasn't looking for anyone, to be honest. You know, I was kind of like thinking that I wanted to spend the rest of my life on my own. Because it was very difficult for me to find somebody that could share with me my life purpose, and at that time I was kind of like in my awakening, spiritual awakening. So I thought that maybe that would be like an impossible, you know, to find somebody that could be in that same level that I was going into, and just sharing something as deep as I was going through at that time, you know. And that was 2000. I started my spiritual path like in 2000, more or less, after my divorce. And then I met Arnaud in 2009, after being on my own and doing a lot of healing and a lot
Which probably wasn't a coincidence that you met him
not
after
at all,
that.
yeah, definitely. I was ready for it.
Yes. Awesome. Arnaud, what about for you?
Well, in my case, I think, you know, when you go through life, you go through experiences, and that allows you to choose whether you want to repeat that same experience or go to the next level or the next step. And for me, I was married with a French girl, a woman, and had 2 kids with her. And I felt that moment where I was not being fulfilled by the relationship, but more importantly, I understood in my case that it was paramount for me to be able to share all that I am with the person I'm partnering with, and all that I am is my heart. So very early, I mean, many years before I met Roxana, I felt that need of finding the partner where I could be, she and I could be the same heart, 2 people sharing the same heart, having the same purpose, having the same alignment. I did look for it in my wife of the moment, but didn't work out. And that's, you know, after a while I met Roxana, and that's what that journey started all over.
I love that. So much of your work is around heartfulness, right?
Yes,
That's the term.
correct.
So for you both, what does heartfulness mean, and how does that show up in your relationship?
Well, may I? The heartfulness, it's a word that we coined in order to represent for people their capacity to be connected with themselves at the deepest level, for them to be able to live through their heart instead of their mind and segregating everything, etc., and being that negative self-talk that, you know, when I was 5 years old, I was calling it the bicycle in the head of people. But anyway, that infinite talk that we have inside our heads, we can let it go and live through our heart, through compassion, gratitude, etc. And how does that work in our lives? Well, if we have 3 hours, we can talk about it. But in a very short summary, I would say that maybe the first step is understanding that each other share the same heart and that same direction that I was telling you about, but also is the reflection of the other. That together we balance each other, not necessarily exactly at the same level on every single theme or topics, and we together weave our lives in the same direction. And heartfulness is also about that, and obviously practicing positivity and gratitude and compassion together, of course.
And I would simply add that it's because we've seen that many people are using the term mindfulness very often, and what we've come to realize is that heartfulness is very much needed, because the mind without the heart is kind of incomplete. So that's the reason why we use Heartfulness.
And to your point, that brings us to something else. One, how does that apply to our lives? Part of the work we've been doing together, and what I mean together is, between us, has been to really let go of the negative self-talk, but the beliefs that were still there and needed to be transformed, and allowing more and more of the heart relationship between us. Because at the end of it, that's what happened many times over. And that is also necessary for us to be the power couple, or at least a fulfilled couple in any case.
We discover the power in the heart.
Yes.
Yeah.
It made me think of a question too, so for the listeners out there, and we get this question a lot, I'm getting that you guys bring out that heartfulness and that gratitude and the best version of yourselves and each other, and being a mirror, like you said. Did you know that was going to be the case right when you met? A lot of people say, did you know, we're married, and did you guys know right away? Or was it, did it take some time learning about each other for you to realize that?
So definitely yes. Our story, the way we met is interesting in the sense that so we met in Santa Fe. I was coming from Spain. Roxana says from Paris, but I think it was from Spain. Anyway, coming from Spain to Santa Fe, New Mexico for a workshop, and Roxana was coming from New Orleans, and she'll tell you her side of the story. But in my case, I arrived late at the workshop, and everything was booked. All the seats were occupied, minus a few of them in the last row, and I sat on her right. And the very first exercise we did together, I knew immediately that she was the one for me, and right away I told her a few things that set the tone of who we are as of today as well. And then I have been relentless to make things happen. And she at last saw the truth, and here we go.
Yeah, that I was gonna say that at the beginning I recognized him, and I said, okay, well, my heart started making this strange, I started feeling something very unusual the first time that I felt that, so I tried to deny it, to myself. And then the negativity in my mind started talking with me, the negative self-talk, that begins, because as I told you at the beginning, I was just ready to be on my own for the rest of my life. So I was trying to sabotage whatever happened outside of that, So this guy wasn't in the picture for me.
Yeah, but tell them how, before that, what brought you to the workshop?
Oh yeah, well, I was writing my first book at that time, and
what's the title?
The title of the book is I was learning to become God. And then, the book, I was fortunate enough that it became a bestseller in Amazon, and many people have been I have helped many people through the pages of that book, because I share my life in the book. And there came a time where I was just blank, I was missing 10 pages of the book to finish the book, and nothing came. Writer's block, what's happening here? How am I going to do this? And then I started listening to this voice inside of me that I had to go to this workshop in Santa Fe, New Mexico, but I didn't have money to pay for the workshop at that time, So I said, but how am I going to do it, So here was my mind just fighting with myself, and so it was kind of like something that lasted for a week or so until I gave up, and I said, okay, I'm going to the workshop, and I don't know, I'm going to pay it with a credit card. And then when I met Arnaud, I realized that the reason why was not only because I met him, but also because the last 10 pages of the book were given to me in the workshop.
Wow,
and
amazing.
She included me in the last 10 pages.
That's amazing. That was what you had to go for. I love that so much. And I'm just thinking about people who may be watching or listening this, and you mentioned negative self-talk, which I think every human being can relate to.
I was a champion at that.
Yeah. So how do you work through that? I'm sure as you even dive into heartfulness, it still comes up for you. So how do you work through that day to day so that you step out of your head and into your heart?
Well, actually, that's what our work is all about, you know, because it took us so many years to find out a formula, how to master, because it's not that the ego is going to go away or disappear, whatever. It's part of you, you know. The negativity that's going on in your mind comes from the ego, if you want to call it ego, you know. There's so many words for it. And you only have to learn how to manage it, how to master it, not even control it, because it's going to be there every day of your life. So it's mastering it. So it's kind of like putting it away. And then that's where the heart comes, and it's so important, because the heart is the only one that can deal with the ego.
So to summarize, we could say that the heartfulness has 4 pillars. The first one is mindfulness, to become aware of oneself. And for that, one can sit a few minutes every day and you know, take that space of being with oneself for a while. The other is using positive words. It seems silly, but if we choose the right words, therefore we put in our heads the right way of being and the right approach and the right experiences. Another one, it's like the gym of the heart, is gratitude. Being grateful every day for a few minutes of 2, 3, 5, 10 items. And the fourth one seems a little bit different, but it's physical exercise. It's having that little success every day that brings us to a new level where I can envision a new positive outcome and a new positive outcome.
So really great point that you brought up about the 4 pillars and some of them being like attitude of gratitude. What are some actionable items that you guys put in place, like each day, habits, if you will, to kind of cultivate that attitude and to, you know, keep those pillars in mind?
In our life, right, as a couple, I think one of the things we do regularly, at least we did it for a long while, and we should maybe renew it, is we do what we call a God vision, which is to share together for half an hour. We usually hike in the mountains up in Sedona, and so during that hike we talk about what we are to be in 5 years, whatever, it doesn't matter the time, and we describe what is happening in our day to day and the people we meet and all these things. That allows us to create that space of imagination, of course, but also of creation of the fulfillment of our vision and our purpose. So that's one thing that together we can empower and therefore live and therefore experience at one point or another.
And it's beautiful to see how it unfolds, you know, because it's, if you insist every day on doing it, well, it's going to become your life at some point, you know, like it's one day after the other. So it's beautiful.
I love that. So you two really have cultivated so many beautiful habits, communication. For people that may... Yes. So for the people that may be listening that, you know, want to get to a place where you are, where you've created such a beautiful partnership, you know, what can they do when they're not feeling that partnership? You know, there have to be moments where, or maybe in the past, where you just knew it didn't feel like a partnership. What do you do when you're maybe having a breakdown, an argument, a disagreement, out of alignment? For you, it may not feel like an argument, but for people who may be listening going, wow, I don't feel like we talk quite like that. How would you say that you handle that?
We did have our share of arguments.
Yes.
At the beginning of the relationship, we must admit that it wasn't very easy.
I mean, Roxana being Colombian and on fire, we had our share of exchanges.
My culture is a very dramatic culture, you know. They're very accustomed to the telenovelas, you know, like the little soap operas and the TV and everything. So everything revolves around drama, and I was accustomed to that.
So I would say, and this is probably the masculine approach in this case, is whatever happens in the relationship, one has to focus on one's vision. And getting back to the God vision, but it applies on the day-to-day as well. What I mean by that is I knew what I wanted and I knew where we were going to go, and I only focused on that. Whatever happened on the outside, in this case with Roxana, who is my better half, and I stick to that at that moment, but still something was not working at that moment, right? So I was staying on track, on that specific purpose, on that vision, and you know, even if she did let me go a few times over and we came back together, every single time it was a huge jump for us in terms of quality, etc. And for many years we've been very much, I can see now the stages through which we went, from, you know, a very negative approach on both sides, where each other is pulling to the downside the other, up to the other way around, where we are now.
I wanted to add to what Arnaud said, that what's most important is to have somebody by your side that's helping you to grow. I think that's the key, and that's the reason why we're still together, you know, because I realize every day that at the beginning of the relationship, I wasn't trusting him because I didn't know you. And so it took me a few years to realize, to open my heart and say, maybe I'm going to have to start trusting myself so that I can trust this guy, and then let's see what happens. Who cares? What am I going to lose? I'm not going to lose anything, you know. I can go back and be on my own. That's simple what could happen, you know. So yeah, once I saw that he was helping me, not against me, that's when everything started to become amazingly positive and beautiful.
And to that specific topic, every morning we talk about, you know, the experiences of the day or the past day, and the angles of perception of each of these events, and in the idea of growing each other. And so that's another exercise that can be applied.
Yeah, communication is key.
In the morning, how you start the day is really, really important.
Another simple tip is just giving thanks, you know, in the morning when you're having breakfast. Take some time to spend there, to be present, to see that you have food in your plate, that you have a home, that you have everything, you know, like because it's so easy for us to get up in the morning and start complaining about everything that we don't have, everything that we have to do in the day, and that's going to take us to another place where everything is going to start to be negative, you know.
Absolutely. So I think one last question I have is, you really are both up to so much as well. You've published several books, you have a beautiful online platform, and you have many other ventures. You know, how do you balance, especially because your business and your relationship is intertwined, which some people think should stay completely separate? You know, how do you allow that to be so combined in life? And
well, when you share the same purpose, when you have, you know, we are focused on helping many people to connect to their heart, and that's not only our purpose as a person, as individuals, it's our purpose as partners, as life partners, and as business partners. It's all aligned. There is no balance to be had. The balance is what is. There's nothing else needed. So I don't think, I mean, yes, once in a while we should stop and
But I think a secret that we have is just that we usually our day, we're not together all day long, you know, like when we're working, we work together but not together. So I just go to another room and I write, and so we're not like on top of each other all day long, you know, like we manage it, you know, in a way that it's just like we at lunch we get together again and we talk and everything, and then we go back to work, and so we have our own little space, you know, so it works quite well.
that's a power couple for sure. I love that.
Yeah, and just one more thing, you guys have given us and the listeners so many good points already, things that they can really take away and implement as far as habits. Is there anything in your heart that you just like to say to, you know, couples themselves that are listening? Anything that's there for you?
So many things.
Yes, indeed.
Well, in my case, I would say that it's very, very crucial for anyone that's looking for happiness and success to go beyond the mind. To not only stay in the mind, but just try to learn how to go and see the difference between what's the self and what's the mind. Because that's kind of like where you're going to be understanding who are you and what are you doing in this life.
And to that purpose, there is no limit to the dreams you can realize and experience. So whenever you open that gate of connecting to your heart and living through it, once you found your purpose, go for it.
I love that. Beautiful. And we'll make sure everybody knows where they can find you so that they can tap more into Heartfulness. So thank you both
Thank
so
you.
much for being
Thank
here.
you.
Your
Thank you very much.
partnership is really beautiful.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.